Joseph was a 22-year-old pizza delivery boy. He worked hard every day, even at night. One night around 1 a.m., the phone at the pizza shop rang. It was a strange voice ordering 2 large pizzas. The address was from a faraway town called Hollow Street, a place Joseph had never heard of. His manager told him to deliver the order quickly. Joseph got on his bike and started his ride. The roads were empty and covered in fog. The air was cold, and his bike's headlight kept flickering. His GPS stopped working, and he could hear strange whispers around him. He felt like someone was following him, but when he turned around, no one was there. After a long, scary ride, Joseph finally reached Hollow Street. The town looked dead. The houses were dark, windows broken, and streetlights were blinking on and off. He found the house number from the order. It was an old mansion with tall iron gates. The gate slowly opened on its own. Joseph's hands started shaking, but he went inside. He knocked on the big wooden door and said, "Pizza delivery." There was no answer. Suddenly, the door opened by itself. Inside, candles were burning on the floor, and cold wind blew through the hall. Then a soft whisper came from inside, "You're late." Joseph dropped the pizza box in fear. When it fell open, he saw a burned face drawn in red sauce. The smell became terrible, and ghostly figures started moving toward him. Joseph ran back to his bike and tried to start it, but it didn't work. The ghosts surrounded him, whispering his name. Finally, he pushed the bike and escaped the town. When he returned to the shop, he told his boss everything. The manager looked shocked and said, "That house burned down 10 years ago." Then the phone rang again. The same voice said, "One more pizza, same address." The clock on the wall showed 1:03 a.m. Joseph was cleaning the pizza counter, getting ready to go home. It had been a quiet night with almost no orders. Just when he was about to switch off the lights, the shop phone rang. The voice on the other end was soft and strange. It said, "One large cheese pizza. Please deliver it to Willowtown, house number 9. Then the call ended suddenly, without even giving a name. Joseph felt a little uneasy. Willowtown was far away, nearly 30 minutes from the city. His manager was already gone, so Joseph decided to do it alone. He placed the pizza in his delivery bag, started his bike, and rode into the cold, empty night. The highway was silent. Fog floated over the road, and the streetlights flickered like dying candles. The air felt heavier as he moved farther. After some time, the GPS stopped working, and his phone battery began to drop fast. He noticed the same old house appearing again and again, as if he was driving in circles. Finally, he found house number 9. The place looked forgotten, half-broken gate, vines on the walls, and a single light glowing inside. He knocked on the door and called, "Pizza delivery." No answer came. After a few seconds, the door slowly opened by itself. Inside, everything was dusty, like no one had lived there in years. Joseph placed the pizza box on a small table. Suddenly, a shadow moved past the hallway. He turned quickly but saw nothing. Then, a cold whisper behind him said, "You're late again." The pizza box opened on its own, showing a black, burned slice with a face drawn in sauce. Terrified, Joseph ran outside and sped away. When he reached the city, he looked back. The road behind him had vanished. The next morning, he checked the order slip, and there was no record of any delivery to Willowtown. Rain poured heavily as Joseph parked his delivery bike under a small streetlight. It was almost 1 a.m., and this was his last order of the night. The location was written clearly, 21 Elm Street, Blackridge Town. Joseph had never heard of that place, but the customer had already paid online, so he had to deliver it. The road to Blackridge was narrow and full of fog. His headlights struggled to cut through the darkness. Trees on both sides swayed in the wind, and every shadow looked alive. After a while, Joseph saw a broken signboard that read, "Welcome to Blackridge." But what scared him most was that the entire town looked empty, no lights, no sound, only silence. He drove slowly, searching for house number 21. Finally, he found it, an old two-story house with broken windows and an open gate. The porch light blinked weakly. Joseph knocked on the door. "Pizza delivery," he called. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the door creaked open a little. Inside, he could see a dining table with plates already set, as if people were waiting for dinner. The air smelled old, mixed with smoke. He stepped inside carefully and placed the pizza box on the table. Suddenly, he heard soft footsteps upstairs, followed by a woman's voice saying, "Come upstairs, Joseph." He froze. No one in the order knew his name. His hands started shaking. The pizza box opened by itself, and inside, there was a photograph of Joseph standing at the same table, wearing the same clothes. The photo looked old and dusty, like it had been there for years. Terrified, Joseph ran out, jumped on his bike, and rode as fast as he could. When he looked back, the house lights were gone, and so was the entire street. The next morning, when he checked online, there was no town named Blackridge on any map. The night was quiet, and the streets were empty when Joseph received one last order before closing. The address written on the slip was strange, number 11, Old Mill Road. He had never delivered there before. The area was far from town, near the edge of the forest. The customer had paid extra for fast delivery, so Joseph decided to go, even though it was already 12:58 a.m. As he rode his bike through the fog, the road grew darker. His headlight flickered, and the wind howled through the trees. He noticed something odd. The houses he passed looked old and abandoned, but he could feel eyes watching from the windows. Every time he looked, no one was there. After 20 minutes, he reached a large wooden house with no nameplate. The gate was half open, and a dim yellow light glowed inside. He checked the address again. It matched. He called out, "Pizza delivery," but no voice answered. The front door was slightly open, moving slowly with the wind. Joseph stepped inside carefully. The house smelled of damp wood and smoke. Old portraits hung on the walls, their eyes seeming to follow him. He placed the pizza box on a dusty table. Then, he heard footsteps coming from the hallway. A tall man appeared, pale and silent, dressed in old-fashioned clothes. His voice was soft and cold as he said, "You came early this time." Joseph didn't understand what he meant. When he looked down, the pizza box was gone. In its place was a photograph of himself holding the same box, but the photo looked decades old. Terrified, Joseph turned to leave, but the door had vanished. The man whispered, "You've been delivering here for years, Joseph." The walls started to fade into darkness. When Joseph finally woke up, he was lying beside his bike. The house was gone, the road was empty, and the pizza box was burned black. It was one of those long nights when Joseph felt tired but needed the extra cash. The pizza shop was almost empty, and the rain outside never seemed to stop. Around 1:10 a.m., an online order appeared on the screen. The name said Mr. Gray, and the address read 12 Brookside Lane. Joseph had never heard of that street, but it was still inside the delivery area, so he accepted the order. He packed the pizza, put on his raincoat, and started his bike. The rain hit his visor hard, and the city lights slowly disappeared behind him. His phone kept losing signal, and the map glitched, showing the same road again and again. When he finally found Brookside Lane, the street looked dead, no lights, no sound, Only broken houses and a cold breeze. House number 12 stood at the end, with a single candle glowing in the window. Joseph parked his bike and walked up the wet path. The house looked empty, but he could see a shadow moving behind the curtain. He knocked. "Pizza for Mr. Gray." A calm voice answered from inside. "Come in. Doors open." He stepped into a dark room that smelled of dust and smoke. The furniture was covered with white sheets, and the candle flickered on the table. Joseph placed the pizza box there. Then he noticed something strange. The room was filled with framed photos, all showing the same man, but the man looked exactly like Joseph. He froze. The candle went out by itself, and in the darkness, the same calm voice whispered near his ear, "You finally returned." The pizza box slid open, revealing a slice shaped like a heart, dripping red. Joseph ran outside, terrified. When he reached the main road, he looked back. The entire lane was gone. The next day, he searched online for Mr. Gray, Brookside Lane. No such address. No such person. Only one note appeared on the screen. "Missing pizza delivery boy, last seen on Brookside Lane." The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet and shining under dim streetlights. Joseph checked his phone. It was already 1:20 a.m. He was ready to close the shop when an online order came through. The note said, "Extra tip if you deliver fast. 5 Oak Street, Westridge." The large tip caught his attention. It was almost double his usual pay. He accepted the order and left on his bike. The roads were quiet, and only the sound of the engine echoed through the fog. After 20 minutes, the streetlights disappeared, and the surroundings turned dark. The GPS arrow started spinning wildly. Still, Joseph continued straight ahead until he saw a wooden sign that said Oak Street. He found house number 5 easily. It was a small cottage with a dim light flickering inside. A rocking chair moved slowly on the porch even though there was no wind. Joseph felt uneasy, but decided to finish the job quickly. He knocked on the door and said, "Pizza delivery." A young woman's voice replied, "Please, come inside. The money is on the table." He stepped into the house. It was strangely warm and quiet. On the table lay an envelope with his name written on it, Joseph. He froze. How could she know his name? When he opened the envelope, it was filled with old coins covered in dust. Suddenly, the lights went out. He turned on his phone's flashlight and saw that the woman was now standing right in front of him, pale skin, empty eyes, and a frozen smile. She whispered, "Your tip for the last delivery." Joseph dropped the pizza and ran outside, but when he looked back, the house had vanished. Only the rocking chair remained, swaying in the wind. The next morning, Joseph found the same dusty coins in his jacket pocket. His delivery app showed no record of any order from Oak Street, because Oak Street didn't exist. Joseph was tired after a long day of deliveries. It was already 1:15 a.m., and he was about to clock out when one last order appeared on the screen. The address said Room 103, Moonlight Motel. The order was prepaid, so all he had to do was drop the pizza and leave. Joseph sighed, grabbed the box, and rode off on his bike. The road to Moonlight Motel was lonely and covered in fog. He didn't see a single car on the way. When he finally reached, the motel looked old and half-abandoned. The lights in the hallway flickered, and the reception desk was empty. A dusty key rack hung behind the counter, but all the keys were missing except one, labeled 103. Joseph called out, "Hello? Pizza delivery for room 103. No one answered. He walked down the silent hallway, each step echoing louder than the last. The door to room 103 was slightly open. He knocked gently. "Sir? Your pizza." Still no reply. He pushed the door open. The room was dark, with only a small lamp glowing beside the bed. On the table sat a half-empty glass of water and a photo frame turned face down. He placed the pizza box beside it and turned to leave, but then he noticed something in the mirror. A man was sitting on the bed behind him. Pale face, empty eyes, and a slow smile. Joseph spun around. The bed was empty. The man in the mirror whispered, "You're late." The lamp flickered, and the pizza box opened by itself, showing nothing inside but a hotel key with Joseph's name engraved on it. Terrified, he dropped everything and ran out. When he reached the reception, the desk clerk had just arrived. Joseph told him what happened. The clerk looked pale and said, "Room 103? That room burned down 3 years ago." Later that night, Joseph checked his delivery bag. The key from room 103 was still there. Joseph's story reminds us that sometimes the scariest places look completely normal until you step too close. What would you do if a call came for a midnight delivery from a town that doesn't exist anymore? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon so you never miss our next horror story. Stay safe, and remember, the next late night order you get might not be from the living. Thanks for watching. See you in the next nightmare.